Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Teena. Every economy transforms with time. Industries grow, consumption patterns evolve, and new technologies reshape how we produce, trade and live. To ensure that headline economic indicators truly mirror these shifts, the base year on which they are calculated must be revised periodically. In India, the current base years 2011-12 for GDP, Index of Industrial Production IIP and Wholesale Price Index WPI and 2012 for the Consumer Price Index the CPI are now more than a decade old. In this period, the structure of our economy has changed dramatically. Recognizing the need to capture these changes with greater accuracy, the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation announced a revised schedule for updating the base years of key indicators 2022-23 for GDP and IIP and 2024 for CPI. To understand the progress so far, the methodology that is being followed, also the challenges in this critical exercise of revising the base year, we are joined today by Mr. Saurabh Garg, Secretary, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, the man who has been at the helm of this exercise. Mr. Garg, thank you for your time. Welcome to Sansad TV.
Thank you. Thank you for calling me.
So, let's understand with the basics. Explain to us and our viewers what is a base year with reference to the national accounts, the CPI and the IIP.
Yeah. So, base year is the reference year which is used for calculating the prices which are used for in the GDP. For the CPI, it's also the base year for the or the reference year for the prices, and it's used for the based on the inflation is calculated. And similarly, in the IIP, the change in production is calculated using the base of the reference year. So, all the three are very important in order to be able to compare from year to year what are the changes that are happening, and the changes that are happening which are a consequence of the output or the production and not because of the prices alone. Right. So, that's very important to distinguish between the changes happening because of increase in price and the changes happening because changes in quantity. And that is the difference that the base year helps give to all economists, forecasters and the citizens.
So, what happens if the base year is not revised periodically?
Essentially, if it is not revised periodically, number one, there are two or three things which happen. Number one, that methodologies change over time. So, as internationally, these are calculated based on methodologies and processes which are determined internationally. So, you are not keeping in pace with that, and therefore, it becomes obsolete in some aspects. The second is that the structure of the economy changes over time. For example, over the past decade, we have a much greater intensification of the digital processes. While some of these get captured, but there could be areas where it is not effectively getting captured. So, the structure of the economy changes. Right. Apart from this, there are new data sources that come up over time. So, the granularity that we have now is based on what were the data sources available maybe a decade back. So, with the increasing change in technology, change in systems, you have new data sources available. So, a combination of the change of the economy, change of the data sources and changing technologies, all of these impact the base year. It's not to say that if the base year is not changed, we don't capture any of these three areas. We do capture them, but it's always better to have a more up-to-date reference here to ensure that you are capturing it very, very effectively.
That's right, keeping pace with the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that was about what a base year is and why it's important to revise the base year periodically. If you could elaborate more on what is the rebasing exercise and why is it significant?
Before I go into the present rebasing exercise, because one of the questions that might come up, that why wasn't it done earlier? And normally it would have been done somewhere around 2019-20, but that's when COVID happened. Right. So, because of COVID, the consumption patterns changed, labor, nature of labor and migration of labor changed. So, therefore, one had to wait for those impacts to settle down. Otherwise, those impacts would continue to show up in any of the indices that we would have developed. So I just wanted to mention that to clarify that. Now, coming to the process of change that we follow, we've been under this at it since about nearly 2 years now. For each of the economic indicators, and these are 3 of the major ones, the GDP, CPI and IIP, we've formulated expert committees which have people who are familiar with this, either in terms of that they have done this earlier, or that academically they have researched on these topics, because there's a lot of research which is done. So keeping that in view, we have formed different expert committees, in fact separate ones for each of the 3 economic indices that we're talking about. Within that also, for example, GDP is the most important, if I can put it, and the one which is quoted very often, that determines the size of the economy, the standing among nations globally, and where we stand in terms of economic strength. We have in fact created 5 subcommittees, and looking at methodologies, looking at technology that is to be used, looking at the rates and ratios that have to be used, a host of technical issues which I don't want to get into the details of. But the fact remains that there are a large number of activities. For example, you have to capture every activity which is going on in the economy.
That's right. Whether
it's on the agriculture side, whether it's on the industrial or manufacturing side, or it is on the services side. And in each of these, you have a host of, there are hotels and restaurants, and there is production of steel, and there's production of electricity, and then you have all the crops and horticulture, etc. So there is a large amount of data which goes into production or development of the GDP. So looking at each of these sectors, within the sectors, looking at each of these items, and which are thousands of them, and what are the changes that have happened, and what are the data sources that can be used to capture them, to be able to find out what is the periodicity of those data sources. Some of them are available real time, some are available monthly, some quarterly, some only annually. So looking at all of these, we have these groups looking at it, and this work has been going on, and now that work is coming towards the last phase, and in the next few weeks and within a few months we hope to close this activity.
Can you give us an exact date of by when can we expect the revision?
Yes, I mean that date we have already announced. In fact, we have different dates for each of them. The CPI, which is the price index, the inflation, that will come out first. That will come out on February 12th. And why I'm saying February 12th, it's not a date that has been picked out just like that. It's just that every 12th of every month, we release the consumer price index, whether it's the 12th of November or the 12th of December. And the January figures we will be bringing out on February the 12th. So since we are changing the base year from the beginning of the calendar year of 26, that data will come out on February 12th. The GDP figures we bring out on the February of 28th, an advance estimate for the entire year. That is the current year, which is 2025-2026. We'll be bringing out, it's called the second advance estimate. We will be bringing out a first advance estimate on the 7th of January, but by that time we will not be ready with the new base year, and the first advance estimate will come out as per the existing base, which is also used in the budget purposes. Okay. So the second advance estimate, which comes out on February 28th, would be with the revised base year. And the IIP requires inputs based on the revised GDP numbers and the inflation index, and therefore it will come out later. And the April numbers of the index for industrial production, we will be bringing out in May. We bring it out on the end of May. 28th of May is when we bring out the 28th of every month we bring out. So we can expect the IIP numbers towards the end of May.
So you've spoken about this elaborate exercise that has been underway for the last several months now. I'm sure you experienced several challenges, but we'll come to that later. You also mentioned the COVID pandemic, and because of which it didn't happen earlier. So the question that comes to mind is, given the disruption that was caused by COVID, how do you ensure that this chosen period represents a normal economic year?
Yeah. So, if you remember, the COVID really struck during 20 and then again in 21. So, following that period, we did a lot of these activities depend on a few of these surveys that we do, and two surveys I would especially mention, two or maybe three I would like to mention. One is the household consumption expenditure survey, which determines what are the kind of items that people consume and purchase on a regular basis. Okay. And that really determines what are the prices that an household faces on items of daily consumption, which is very important for the consumer price index. So we did two back-to-back surveys in 22-23 and 23-24. And the reason we did that was to essentially check whether the normalcy has been restored in terms of household expenditure, in terms of household consumption, in terms of other activities of the households, and similarly on the industrial side, whether normalcy has come back. And it was good to see that the differences, if any, between 22-23 data and 23-24 data were very minimal. And that's why we decided, and the expert committee decided, that 22-23 is a good year to take back, and because all the indices have come back to the pre-COVID levels, or keeping in view what is expected. Okay. So that's one of the main reasons that we have selected 22-23. And similarly on the industrial side also, industrial production had ramped up. So that's the reason why we have chosen 22-23 for this. For the prices, we need to collect prices for an entire calendar year. And we started that collection during January 24, and that's how the prices were collected for the year 2024, and that's the base year for the CPI. Even if you look at the previous editions, there's a difference between the base year of GDP IIP, which was 2011-12, and CPI was calculated on the prices of 2012. So it depends on each of the peculiarities of an index, and that's how the decision for the base year is taken.
Okay, so after this happens, what changes are expected in the GDP series?
So I can't predict what would be the change in the numbers.
What is the assessment?
Yeah. Let us see what the numbers throw up. But as I mentioned, given the fact that the structure of the economy has changed, given the fact that some parts of the economy have really grown, especially the digital parts of the economy, and given the fact that we have more variety of data that is now available, definitely the accuracy of the numbers, the robustness of the numbers would definitely improve. And the fact that we have now more near real-time data, for example, we have data which was not available earlier, e-Vahan data on roads and transport vehicles, etc. We have GST data, which gives a much better idea of what are the production and the consumption, what is there. So definitely in terms of the accuracy and robustness of the data, it will definitely improve. The numbers are something which we'll only get to know once they come out.
So in terms of accuracy, of course, it's going to benefit, but are there any other benefits also attached to the changes that will occur after the revision?
So all these indices are used extensively for decision making. And in fact, the tagline for the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation is data for development. And our focus is whatever data that can be made available for better policy making, for better decisions, that is our focus. And with more up-to-date data, with data which reflects the current structure of production, current structure of consumption, and what people are doing and what industries are doing. That helps decision making and making decisions which are much more tuned with the present requirements of the people. And given all this, it's essential that the data remains up to date. And one more thing that will happen with this is that we will be becoming much more granular in the data that is available. We are looking at sectorally, for example, that we can look at price indices not only at the national level, but also ensuring that at the state level, we are able to give changes in price index. We are looking at different sectors, whether it's fruits and vegetables or whether it's education or housing, things which directly concern people, how we can ensure that greater robustness and accuracy of the figures are there. We are also working with state governments to look at which of these data can be even given at the district level, so that even at the district level, decision making is based on much more accurate data. So a combination of this, looking at it sectorally in a much, and similarly in the, whether you talk of GDP or you talk of IIP, even in GDP, we are looking at, obviously GSDP is gross state domestic product. That figures will become much more robust, and each state will know what exactly is the state domestic product. We are also working with state governments, and some states are moving ahead in that whether at a district level, some kind of an economic product, I won't call it a district domestic product, but at least some kind of an economic indicator is available at the district level. So that will give an idea of what is happening to the different districts. And this will also be very, very useful, for example, for the private sector, to look at where the kind of investments that they can make, where growth is happening, where labor would be more amenable to stay given the quality of life that would be available. So I think decision making and the focus on ensuring that the decisions happen in a manner which are much more in tune with what is happening on the ground will be there. And if I can add one other aspect is, for example, on the IIP, we'll be giving sectoral breakup also. For example, we look at energy consumption. What is it as per the new and renewable sources of energy? What is it as per conventional sources? On the mining sector, we are looking at minor minerals, which we were not doing adequately now. So what I'm saying is, there will be much more granularity of information available, which will help both the government, policymakers at the national, state and district levels, as well as the private sector to take decisions.
Since you covered a lot of ground on the progress and the elaborate exercise that's been conducted, it involves a lot of data, it involves a lot of coordination with the different stakeholders. Also tell us about the challenges that you faced, because it's easier to describe how it went on, but given the time that it has taken, but in context of the availability of data, in terms of the industry reporting, in terms of how you integrated different sources of information, what are some of the key challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
So as you mentioned, this is a very data heavy exercise. Right. It entirely depends, and I must compliment the citizens of the country who have been participating, cooperating, collaborating with the field staff of the National Statistics Office on a year-to-year basis in giving information about their consumption patterns, about the educational levels, about the kind of work that they are doing, because these are very, very important ingredients before we do a periodic labor force survey, in which our field staff and enumerators go from house to house to understand what are the kind of skill levels they have, what are the kinds of work that they are doing, how many are self-employed, how many are working for wages in the agricultural or other sectors. And I must say that every day, one of our around more than 8,000 enumerators and staff go to some household, to some enterprise, to some unit to collect data. And that data really forms the basis of all these activities. So first of all, I must thank all the citizens of the country for cooperating and giving this data. Equally important is the data that the industrial units give, the enterprises give, because there is an annual survey of the unincorporated sector, which gives us an idea of the informal sector. We collect data from the balance sheets of the formal companies, and our people go out there also to validate that data. So I think the kind of support we get from the industries, from the industry associations, I would like to thank them for cooperating in this. And the third, if I can add, is a lot of this data is collected from within the government, within the central government, from the state governments, from public sector agencies, and other agencies and bodies associated with the government. And all that data also comes to us on a regular basis. And I must thank them too for providing data. But when you have such a large number of stakeholders, there will always be some areas where there are problems, where there are issues, where there are doubts. And those doubts, I would say, are very valid, because they are sharing data, and very often they have some apprehension about how it will be used, whether their personal information will not be released somewhere. So I must assure all of them, and I think for the past 75 years, the National Statistics Office has been doing this, and there never has been a case of any data which can be identifiable to an individual or to an enterprise having gone out in the public domain. We are very careful of that, and we maintain that anonymity. So I think the only problem, if at all, the challenge that we have is the challenge to assure everyone that the data that we use is only used for statistical purposes at an aggregate level, and we really don't bother about the individual data, but we ensure that that data remains inaccessible to anyone. So challenges are many, but I think with the cooperation of all, we've been able to surmount them, and I'm confident we'll be able to do so in future too.
So, of course, significant progress has now led us to this stage where the revision is expected in the next few weeks. Do you expect to stick to this 5-year revision calendar from now on?
Yeah, internationally, that is what is recommended, around a 5-year. And that is adequate to capture the changes in economic structure, consumption patterns, etc. So broadly, that would be the periodicity. But very often things happen which require a change. The COVID, for example, happened last time around. So, but broadly, that is the objective. And the components of the various components that go into making these indices, we are ensuring that we do them at a slightly more frequent level, so that we have up-to-date data available to us at any time that we require the changes to be done.
So we've spoken about the progress, the methodology in greater detail, of course also the outcome and the impact. Before we wind up the conversation, one forward-looking question from you about your larger vision for modernizing India's statistical system over the next decade, because now we are a digital economy growing at a very rapid pace. Data is the new gold, and it's important to have a system which is not just safe and secure but also accurate.
Yeah.
So what is your vision for the next decade to strengthen India's statistical ecosystem?
Yeah. As I would say, data is in a way becoming the fifth factor of production. We have traditionally had land, labor, capital and technology as the four main factors of production. And I think going forward, data would be that fifth factor. And especially with greater penetration of artificial intelligence, which is entirely data based, it's extremely essential that Indian data and data that is available not only with the government but other data which reflects the Indian economy, the Indian social levels, that data is machine readable. So one of our focus areas going forward is to ensure that data that is produced within the government by the central government or the state government is data which is harmonized, which is interoperable, which is intercomparable with other data. And for that, it needs to follow certain classifications, certain standards, follow machine readability, because it's essential that whether it's AI or machine language, they are able to pick up credible data from India, because nothing operates in a vacuum. And in case credible data about India is not available, that vacuum might be filled up by other data. So going forward, the Ministry of Statistics is focused on ensuring that credible and accurate data about India is available in a format which is technologically which is amenable to be used by technology, and that's the focus going forward.
And have you already begun working on that roadmap?
Yes, absolutely. That is something that we are working on with other ministries, along with ensuring that it is technology savvy or technology prone, if I can use that word. We are also ensuring that the timeliness, the frequency of the data, the granularity of the data improves, so that the correct narrative about India is available internationally and in India, and everyone realizes the kind of changes that are happening, and it's important that the data captures those changes. So that is something that we are working on, and with the support of all, we hope to achieve that goal going forward.
We wish you the very best with achieving that goal. Time allows us to take up only that much on the program. Thank you once again, Mr. Garg, for joining us and explaining to us about what this base year revision exercise has been all about, the changes that it will bring about, also the benefits attached to it for every stakeholder. And once the revision is announced in February 2026, as the Secretary of the Ministry informed us, we'll wait and see what real impact it's going to have on different economic indicators. So with that, we'll have to wind up this program. Thank you once again to you viewers for your valuable time as well.
संसद टीवी के और भी प्रोग्राम्स देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल और हाँ, इन्हें लाइक और शेयर करना ना भूलें।